been rickrolled.
Uh-oh. Is that a radio term?
Well, it's an internet term. That's like about 5 years old. So welcome back on the Good Morning Artesia radio show.
Thank you, Gene. Appreciate you having me.
Yeah, Superintendent John Ross Null, and looks like we had the gray in mind today.
Today, yes, sir.
So
yep.
Glad we could do that. Well, busy time of year, busy week, and we just had Dr. Salgado on from the hospital giving us an update on what's happening at the hospital. Let's go ahead and get an update on what's happening with the Artesia schools. And first thing I just want to ask you about, you had a special board meeting on Monday, and the Board of Education voted to join a lawsuit in New Mexico, and just kind of give us a report on that.
That is correct, Gene. We had a special meeting on Monday night, and the board was considering whether or not to join Gallup-McKinley schools, and actually there are 20 districts involved now with us, and the board did vote unanimously to join that lawsuit. And essentially it is the participating districts versus the Office of the Public Education Secretary, Public Education Department, and really focuses on trying to get answers to three things, Gene. One is asking the court to determine the statutory authority of the parties involved, the local boards of education and the Public Education Department, to require the Public Education Department to follow the State Rules Act and not violate the authorities of the local boards and local superintendents. And then finally, to require the Public Education Department Secretary not violate the authorities of the local boards and superintendents and not retaliate or intimidate. And so really just trying to establish the role of the local board, the role of the Public Education Department. And it's not about one particular issue. There are some that may believe that it is about wearing masks or specific to the COVID toolkit or anything like that, and that's not it at all. In fact, the participating districts are all following the guidance that's in the toolkit right now. But anyway, it is significant that our board took that action on Monday night, and there are other districts, a number of other districts that are considering it, and so it will be interesting to see kind of how that plays out over the next several weeks. But certainly have the utmost respect from our board and the decision that was made on Monday night.
Well, and you're right, because I think the McKinley County Gallup suit has been going for several months now. It didn't just start with like what happened in Floyd and everything.
That is correct. It actually has been ongoing for some time. Just as things are progressing, more districts are considering whether or not to join in those other districts in the lawsuit.
Sure. Let me ask you this regarding, you said the schools are following the toolkit and that's what's going on. How has that been working out? What have you seen as far as COVID cases in the schools, and if it's staff, students,
sure,
so forth?
As the rapid response protocols have evolved for schools over the last few weeks. There were a number of schools, even in our area, that started school about a week earlier than we did. So they experienced some of those changes more than we did. But as school started up, as you likely know, there was the rule that if you got to 4 rapid responses, and that doesn't necessarily mean 4 cases. It's any cases that occur on a particular day, and so for
could be 1 case, could be 5 cases.
It's exactly right. That's exactly right. And so initially, it was this going to remote for 14 days, and then it evolved into, if you get to 4 rapid responses within 24 hours, you submit an enhanced COVID safe practices plan. On our call with the Superintendent's Association yesterday and the Public Education Department, and their discussions with the health team, is really the recommendation now is looking at a percentage of the population, because before you were comparing perhaps Central Elementary with 150 students and staff to Hobbs High School, the largest high school in the state. So really looking at a percentage of cases at a particular campus when making some decisions on those campuses. And so, you know, we have had cases. Not in all of our schools, but we have had cases in several of our schools. Fortunately, there is no indication that they're related. You know, that they're isolated events, even though they may be at the same school. But that is certainly something that we're monitoring very closely. And actually, just before I came down here, was looking at some percentages, and actually the highest percentage right now is at 2% at one of our campuses, and it's our one of our smaller campuses, and so but anyway, we of course send out notification to families every day, you know, any day that there is a case, so they are aware that that's the case. And I know that can seem overwhelming, but those notifications, you know, could be based on just based on just a handful of cases over a period of time. But when you get a notification a few days in a row, it certainly can cause concern. But I want people to know that we are tracking that very closely and identifying close contacts, and staff are working hard to use social distancing. In fact, working every day trying to see how we can improve that and use our spaces not only more wisely to help keep kids and staff more safer, but to try to keep more kids in school. And I will tell you that our current Secretary of Education, Dr. Steinhaus, who is superintendent in Los Alamos, is definitely fighting for students to stay in school. In fact, the word yesterday was in the medical advisory team at the state level that he just flat out said, we're keeping kids in school. We're not closing schools. And so certainly looking for ways to maintain safe practices and without closing schools. And so we're glad to be at that point.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure you were pleasantly surprised when you and the other superintendents that were working on this, especially how things started out with, you know, like Goddard, for example, was one that had to close for the period.
Sure, and
the adjustment was made.
yeah, and it was certainly a collective effort between a number of superintendents and Secretary of Education to move in that direction.
Yeah.
Because the last thing we need is parents and families and kids. Are we going to be in school this today? Are we not going to be in school tomorrow? And so it was very good to have some local control over that matter.
Yeah, which is great. Now, speaking of the cleaning and everything that is being done, and you've talked about it, and other folks with the schools have talked about all the efforts that the schools have gone through that started last year that you're doing now. We did have a question from a listener. We wanted to ask you if the desks are being cleaned between each student in class, if students are staying in the same seats they had at day one and not being moved around so much.
Sure.
So you want to kind of talk about what the procedures are right now?
Yeah, and actually it's perfect timing for that question. As we started the school year, the recommendation from the CDC, from the Public Education Department toolkit was to clean surfaces, disinfect surfaces once a day, and then be very good at using hand sanitizer. And we have all of our classrooms have mounted in the classrooms hand sanitizers outside the bathrooms, so kids go right in and can use hand sanitizer as they enter the classroom and leave the classroom. But just as an extra precaution, as we speak, our maintenance staff are actually delivering disinfecting product to every classroom at the secondary level, so teachers will have that in their classrooms to move toward doing that with the desks between classrooms if that's necessary, which is what we did last spring.
Okay, so that is being done. And an answer to this question.
It will be. It's starting up.
It's starting up.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Because following the CDC guidance with custodians and, disinfecting things, high touch areas once a day, and then using the hand sanitizer. But we just want to be prepared, and we want to take that extra measure and have that available, especially at our secondary schools where kids are changing desks. At our elementary schools, you know, they're in their desk for the day. And so, great question. But yeah, as we speak, more product is going out to our schools.
Okay. Was there? You had the special board meeting on Monday, and we talked about the vote on the lawsuit, joining that lawsuit. Was there any other action that the board took?
There was no other action that night. That was a special meeting just to consider that. And I know we're wrapping up. Just wanted to.
Well, yeah. I mean, I've gone over the news, so I mean, this is your time.
Oh,
if
no.
there's anything
my
else
goodness.
you'd like to.
Well, I just wanted to share with everyone that this is the 10th day of school. Believe it or not, it's day number 10, and just want to thank everyone for the collaborating with us and cooperating with us and supporting us to get this school year off the ground. And I know one of the things that has been a challenge is that for the majority of the summer, things seemed pretty normal, and we just kind of did our thing, most people, and went about our business and had a pretty normal summer. And I know that we were all hopeful and optimistic that we would start this school year in a normal fashion, kind of like our summer was. And of course, as we all know, with the surge in cases and Delta variant and those things as school was starting up, we are still working through those challenges. And so just ask that people stay in good communication with us, keep their kiddos home if they are sick. And
it doesn't have to be COVID. It could just be.
That's right. Just if they're having symptoms, keep them home, and we'll certainly work with them to get their makeup work. And just we appreciate the patience and again the communication, and things are going to get better every day.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Now the governor's health order that mandated vaccines for healthcare workers, that wasn't a mandate for school. So you're still, if an employee chooses not to get vaccinated, they're not going to run the risk of being asked to leave.
That is correct,
but
Gene.
they do have to go through
surveillance testing once a week now for unvaccinated staff.
Yeah.
And so, and that is certainly a personal decision that individuals and families need to consider. But we will be partnering with what the hospital has asked us for some information on our staff members who may want to get the vaccine, especially now that Pfizer is fully approved. And then also we'll be partnering with the Department of Health and FEMA to have a vaccination clinic at our administration office for the public, for anyone that would like to participate in that. And then also with one of our local pharmacies, that opportunity for staff would be there also. And for students, it certainly is optional, and that is not something that could be done without parental consent. Some people have concerns about that, and
Sure.
so again, just like for adults, families need to consider that for their own kids and make the best decision that they can for their family. But as a district, we're going to try to facilitate best we can those that want to get the vaccine.
Yeah. Did you find all the teachers and staff members to fill all the positions?
We're so close, Gene.
Yeah, all right.
We're very close. Yeah, we're really in pretty good shape. We've got a couple of certified positions that are still posted that we're covering with long-term substitutes, but we're doing pretty well.
Yeah. Well, I met a gentleman yesterday whose wife is one of your new teachers.
Oh yeah.
Moved here from Missouri.
Okay. Yes,
And,
I know just who you're talking
I said,
about.
have you been through your first southeast New Mexico dust storm yet? And they said, not yet. But I said, well, you'll enjoy
He will.
it.
He probably works at one of our local churches.
I think he does.
Yes, he does. I know just who you're talking about, Gene.
So we're happy to have all these new folks in town.
Yeah,
and
we are.
everything. So,
We are.
Well, good. Is there anything else you want to cover today?
No, sir.
All right.
We're good.
Well, thank you so
All right,
much.
Gene.
Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
All right. Superintendent John Ross Null, and we'll be right back.